Okay, we're going to do the trend analysis lecture. These are all of the notes that you need to know for the assignment. I'm going to do them in some segments using Screencast-O-Matic. So you'll have 15-minute segments. I think we'll probably have two. So to get started, the trend paper, let me get this presenting if I can. Okay, so with the trend assignment, the first thing that we will look at is the difference between the words trend and fad. So a lot of times those words are used interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. So when the media tells us like what's hot, they label something as trend, but it's usually a fad. Someone who wears the latest fashions or has obscure new music on their iPod is often called trendy. But a trend is not the same thing as a fad. A lot of the time, those things that are being described are fads. So it could just be a discussion of semantics, a discussion of words, but there is a difference. So the lecture that is created for us to give to you actually looks at Dr. Dre, and we look at a title song from an Eminem album. So I'm not going to rap this for you or whatever, but I'll read it through. I'm a trend. I set one every time I'm in. I go out and just come back full circle again. You a fad. That means you something that we already had. But once you're gone, you don't come back. No, you're off the, too bad, you're off the map now. Radar can't even find you. So fads disappear. Trends have staying power. Okay, picking up where we were. In other words, fads are short-term fanaticism. So they're like a blip in culture and time whereby it seems the whole world is joined in the same craze. They're exciting and electric, but they burn out really fast. You were all probably part of like the Pokemon Go fad, right? Everybody played that for a little while. It was very popular and then kind of burned out. Or you're all playing some game right now. I think it's Imposter or something like that. Probably a fad. Everybody's going to play it for a while. It will burn out. I think there were shoes like Heelys. I don't know if you guys got in on that fad, but everybody had Heelys, those shoes with wheels on them, and now they're gone. I mean, I don't think people are wearing Heelys anymore. So a fad is a fast and furious practice, product, or interest fueled by tremendous hype, and followed by a deep decline. Usually it's isolated to a few market segments. A lot of times it's isolated to youth because youth will latch onto a fad very quickly, or it's targeted to a particular demographic group. Fads are self-contained, they're short-lived, they burn out, they probably never come back. You can probably think of fads with clothing, fads with like video games, fads with music, all of those things you have probably experienced before. As Dre points out, fads are generally not missed once they're gone. People don't usually sit around and say, oh, I miss the days where we wore Heelys. Usually we want fad amnesia, like we want to forget them, bury them away. Sometimes they're kind of embarrassing. At least until the next generation revives them as kind of retro goofs, but they stand for a certain point of time and we've moved past it, usually. Trends, though, represent long-term changes or movements that are substantial to society. So a trend is something that has probably been happening for 20, 30, 40 plus years. It's something that slowly changed society. Trends become part of our DNA. Like they change how we do things. They start with a few people, usually the trend setters, and then kind of grab a larger segment. A trend is a slow, steady development. They're characterized by new ways of doing business. So, like electronic money is a trend, right? Probably started some with debit cards, and now you can pay using Venmo. You can pay using Apple Pay. All of that has changed the way we do business. I mean, Venmo wasn't even a company probably 10 years ago, and now it's a business, and people have jobs because of it. New lifestyle practices, different things that we do and change the way that we do things in our lifestyle, like maybe clean living can trickle down to all different aspects of your life, or with recycling, that would be a lifestyle practice. The changing needs of customers. If you think about all of the products that you can buy for smartphones, like those are all new products that came about because we have smartphones. Like you can buy, screen protectors, and you can buy, phone cases, and you can buy, what are those things? Pop sockets or whatever. All of those come just because smartphones are a part of our lives. So trends don't usually generate as much enthusiasm as fads. People don't really jump on as fast with them. They take longer to develop, but they are longer lasting and far more widespread. So instead of like plummeting to their demise, many trends evolve into permanent shifts in the way we live, the way we work, or the way we interact with people. If you think about like smartphones and how we interact with people, it's changed so much in the last 30 years, how people communicate. Many types of trends exist. So if you start thinking about your trend, there are industry trends, economic trends, societal trends, cultural trends, demographic trends, technological trends. Think about those different categories where you might be able to find a trend to research. No two papers can have the same trend. So if you come up with a trend, if you start thinking of one, probably latch onto it and don't share it with your friends. What are you looking for as we start our initial research? You're looking for a service, a product, a behavior, or a value that extends in one direction and follows a course that's traceable over time. So if you're looking for, let's say a behavior, something like clean living, you would have to watch how that kind of started, probably maybe in the 1980s, 1970s, and then follow the course of that over time. So a trend probably didn't start last year that you're going to be able to write a paper on. Like a trend, COVID-19 and the practices attached to it, probably we don't have enough research yet to do that as a trend. Look for a line of movement that shows a prevailing inclination. So more people are doing this, more people are buying it, more people are latching onto it, more jobs are being created because of it. I had somebody who once wanted to do a trend on like denim. Well, denim is around, it's been around for a long time, but I don't know that we can show that more people are wearing denim now than were wearing it in the 1980s. I don't know that that's a growing trend. Look for a shift or a veer in a new direction that is more than just a current style or preference. Fads can be in a lot of categories. They're usually in entertainment, fashion, and lifestyle. So if you are looking to stay away from fads, that's where you find them. Both trends and fads begin on the fringe, on the outside, and they move toward the center. But fads will fall away, and trends continue to penetrate larger groups. Here's an example. The portable music trend, spurred by the 80s boombox, which then evolved to the 90s Walkman, which then matriculated to the iPod and then the iPhone. And now you can listen, play music on your watch if you want to. But it started in the 1980s where people would carry these big boom boxes on their shoulders and they could bring their music with them. That was a new thing, to have portable music. While the hardware has been replaced with more popular and portable devices, this trend has rocked steady for decades and may already be classified as a permanent shift. Trendsetters get the ball rolling, like the first geeks who began file sharing on the internet in the mid-90s, file sharing music, and then that led to the digitalization of music, which has created entire industries, right? you have Pandora and you have Amazon Music and you have Spotify. Like none of those companies existed probably 20 years ago. So trends have staying power. As you start to think about your trend, it has to have staying power. No matter how long since its initial popularity, trends still matter. So real trend watchers, you're going to use analysis to understand what is behind, that's supposed to be, say trend, I don't know why. What is behind the trend? Okay, why did it start? Examine why it's here. And then you're going to make predictions and evaluate its prospects for trendhood as you start thinking about this as a topic. I would be wary of the latest hype and media spin, which will portray fads as trends, and your paper won't go anywhere if you use that. So here's some tips to help you start thinking about trends for your paper. In your paper, you will prove the trend exists. That's through statistics, outside sources. This paper requires 10 outside sources. So first you have to prove to me that it exists. There's a proof section in this paper. Second, to determine what's driving it, what's the cause, what's driving the trend's development, what's making it continue to grow. A couple of years ago, Owen, my son, did a paper on debt as a trend. It was really very interesting because there are certain things that are driving that trend. I mean, if people get out of debt, there are a lot of businesses that would be shut down because they thrive on people staying in debt. So what's causing it? Credit card companies, payday loan companies. It's very interesting to read about what's perpetuating that trend. Not all trends are positive. Trends are fueled by a myriad of strategic factors, a confluence of events that culminate and fortify one another to produce fertile ground for them to take hold. So there will be a multitude of causes. You won't find one cause for your trend. I'm going to check on where we're at for time here. We're getting there. I'm just going to keep it so I can see the time. As you're thinking about like what drives the trend, technological innovations, for sure. If you think about even debt, electronic money is one of the causes of the debt trend. Well, you wouldn't have electronic money if you didn't have technological innovations. So just be thinking about like what has driven this trend? Government regulations or deregulations, has that driven a trend? Economic developments, demographic shifts, lifestyle changes, new values, attitudes, and preferences. All of those things can be causes of trends. So if you think about like demographic shifts, I had somebody do a paper on urbanization. More people are moving to cities. At least they were before the pandemic. That might be changing a little, but more people are moving to cities. Well, why? For jobs, and then you just have kind of this multitude of things that are attached to that. Here's kind of a trend. So it took producing a mid-market SUV. So SUV stands for Sport Utility Vehicle. That was not a vehicle class 20 years ago, probably 25 years ago. And then it slowly became a vehicle class and an automotive category. And now that's a trend. Like every automobile company makes an SUV. The same goes for the home computer. 70 computers, in the 70s, the computers were huge. You couldn't have one in your house. Now you probably have multiple